BBC News with Eileen McHugh. A private burial ceremony for Queen Elizabeth II has taken place at Windsor Castle, bringing to a close 10 days of public mourning in Britain. The late Queen, who reigned for 70 years, was buried in the King George VI's Memorial Chapel alongside her parents, her husband and her sister. The service was attended by close members of the royal family. More from our royal correspondent Daniela Ralph, who is outside Windsor Castle.
It is where we saw her say that last lonely farewell to her husband, Prince Philip. So Windsor is fittingly the Queen's final resting place. This evening, she has been buried here in the King George VI Memorial Chapel alongside her husband and with her father, mother and sister. And at the end of a day where the royal family has shared so much of its grief with the public, this was a private moment for them. A chance for those who knew the Queen best, for those who loved her the most, to say goodbye away from the public gaze.
Earlier, Queen Elizabeth's state funeral service at Westminster Abbey was attended by more than 2,000 guests. The ceremony saw the biggest gathering of world leaders in a single place in living memory. The Archbishop of Canterbury told the congregation that she had touched a multitude of lives. Thousands of people lined the streets of central London as the gun carriage bearing the Queen's coffin was drawn along by sailors of the Royal Navy. In other news, a judge in the United States has quashed the conviction of a Baltimore man in a high-profile murder case, which gave rise to the popular true crime podcast Serial. Adnan Syed was 19 years old when he was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of his former girlfriend, Hae-Min Lee, whose body was found buried in woodland more than 20 years ago. Azadeh Moshiri reports from Washington.
It's a case that has gripped millions ever since the hit true crime podcast Serial retraced all the steps in the investigation and the trial. It raised questions over whether Mr. Syed's conviction for strangling his 18-year-old ex-girlfriend was justified. A judge has now thrown out the conviction after prosecutors said they've uncovered new evidence that undermines it. But this doesn't mean Adnan Syed has been found innocent. He is now being placed under house arrest, and prosecutors have 30 days to investigate and decide whether they should drop the charges against him altogether or put him back on trial once again.
The most serious protests in Iran in 3 years have left 2 people dead as unrest continues over the death on Friday of a young woman who'd been detained by the morality police. Protesters clashed with the security services in the northwestern province of Kurdistan. Mahsa Amini was visiting Tehran with family when she was arrested for allegedly violating the Islamic Republic's dress code. World News from the BBC. The International Atomic Energy Agency says Ukraine has informed it that shelling close to the South Ukraine nuclear power plant affected 3 power lines and shattered windows at the site. Its Director General, Rafael Grossi, said that while attention had been focused on the need to prevent a nuclear accident at the Zaporizhzhia plant, Monday's explosion demonstrated all too clearly the potential dangers at other nuclear facilities. Rescuers in Japan are warning of the dangers of mudslides as one of the biggest storms in recent decades continues to batter the country. So far, Typhoon Nanmadol has killed at least 2 people and injured more than 80 on the southwestern island of Kyushu. Hundreds of thousands of homes are without power. An earthquake has hit central Mexico, shaking buildings and sending residents of the capital, Mexico City, running onto the streets for safety. A 7.5 magnitude quake triggered a tsunami alert. These people in Mexico City described what they had experienced.
We were in the office and we felt it. We felt the movement, and when we were evacuating, we could hear the seismic alarm, and we went down in an orderly way. We were the last ones.
A colleague who has a phone app quickly warned us. We were the first ones to evacuate, and I didn't feel it. Other colleagues did. One who was in the toilet said the doors were shaking.
1 death was reported. UN investigators say they believe the Ethiopian government is behind ongoing crimes against humanity in the northern Tigray region. The Commission of Human Rights Experts on Ethiopia highlighted what it called credible information of large-scale killings committed by Ethiopia's National Defence Force, with the targets Tigrayan men and boys of fighting age. The report says human rights violations have been committed by all sides since fighting erupted nearly 2 years ago. BBC News.